All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're breaking down a pretty specific and frankly intense strategy for financial control. We're going to look at a system laid out by a popular online wealth coach who says he has a way for you to take total command of your assets. So, what's his big secret?
First things first, it all starts with a question that, really hits home for a lot of us. Is your financial house truly in order? The source material we're digging into today taps right into that anxiety, suggesting that maybe, just maybe, the typical ways we handle our money aren't as secure as we think. And it uses a very, very famous example to make its point.
So, to really frame the problem, the source immediately points to this huge cautionary tale, the Michael Jackson estate. The argument here, with this quote, is that even one of the biggest entertainers in history, with a whole team of pros, ended up with a system that was weak, leading to just massive financial problems after he was gone. And the scale of that problem? We're not talking small potatoes here. According to the source, years after he passed, the IRS came knocking and hit the Jackson estate with this tax bill: $700 million. That number is used to really hammer home the point that conventional trusts can fail, and fail big time, leaving everything vulnerable. So if that's the problem, what's the solution?
Well, to fight back against that kind of vulnerability, the source material offers up what it calls a cold-blooded solution. And this isn't just another financial product. Oh, no. It's a very specific kind of trust that's designed, in his words, to be completely impenetrable. So what is this thing? It's got 4 key ingredients, you could say. It is a private, irrevocable, tax-free, common law trust. Now, every single one of those words is crucial. It's private, so it's not a public record. It's irrevocable, which the source says is actually a strength. It's claimed to be tax-free, and, this is a big one, it's based on common law, not the statutory law we're used to. And to really drive home just how powerful this thing is supposed to be, the source uses some pretty vivid language. He actually describes his trust as being North Pole cold. It just creates this instant image of something totally untouchable, something secure from any outside pressure.
Okay, so now let's get into the nuts and bolts. How does this trust supposedly give you what the source calls ultimate control? Well, it all comes down to its legal foundation in a very unique way of setting it up. The source makes this fundamental split between 2 kinds of law. On one side, you've got common law, which he connects to being an American. On the other side, there's statutory law, which he links to being a United States citizen, and frames it as being part of a corporate system or a company. This trust is designed to operate completely under what he calls common law, to stay way outside of that other structure. So the very first step to getting control is becoming the grantor. Now, grantor is just the technical term for the person who creates the trust. In this system, there's no lawyer, no middleman creating it for you. Nope. You are the one and only creator. And that's positioned as the first pillar of your power over the whole thing. And that leads to the absolute core concept, and it's captured perfectly in this quote. The whole creation of the trust is set up as a private contract with yourself. You call the meeting, you're the only one there, and you make every single decision. And the source just asks, rhetorically, is that power? And here's exactly how that meeting with yourself works. Step 1, you send out a special meeting notice from you to you. Step 2, you write down the minutes of the meeting, which becomes a private contract with yourself. Step 3, you appoint the trustee. Surprise, it's you again. And step 4, you create a certificate of trust to make it all official. You are the creator, the attendee, and the boss. Okay, so we've covered the how. But why? Why would you go through this whole process? Let's talk about the payoffs. What are the concrete, real-world benefits that the source claims this structure will deliver? The source draws a really sharp line in the sand. This private, irrevocable trust, it's framed as giving you total control, making your assets totally unsuable and keeping everything private. On the other hand, he just dismisses a regular statutory trust, calls it a glorified will and, his words, a poopa trust that's public, easy to contest, and just plain weak. So here are those promised benefits, all laid out. The source claims you get total control. You get 0 personal liability for any financial mistakes the trust makes, as long as they're not illegal. Your assets can't be sued. The trust itself, completely tax-free status. And everything is kept private, away from the public eye. The entire philosophy behind this whole strategy can really be boiled down to this one simple, memorable equation: P equals power.
Privacy equals power. The whole idea is that when you take your financial life out of the public statutory systems, you gain the ultimate authority over it. Right. Now for the million-dollar question, right? After explaining the problem, the solution, and all these benefits, the source is super direct about how a person can actually get their hands on one of these trusts. There's a very clear call to action. The source is upfront about it. To get one of these trusts created, you have to attend his financial IQ challenge. It's positioned as more than just buying a product. It's an education where you learn how to operate what he calls a whole new lifestyle. And just to give that challenge some context, the source does offer an alternative, a personal one-on-one appointment for $50,000. So that number really helps frame the challenge as the intended and more accessible path for his followers to get into the system. And that pretty much brings us to the end of this explainer. The whole concept really hinges on this powerful idea of total self-reliance. And it leaves us with this final, really thought-provoking question. If you could write a totally binding contract with yourself to lock down your wealth and your future, what would you promise? What would you protect? It's a pretty compelling idea at the heart of this very unique approach to financial freedom.